Hey everyone, Tara Lynn here, and I am going to walk you through the Purple Winter Creative Challenge. If you've got your step-by-step guide, you can get that out if you like to follow along with that. Today I am working on the wooden circle. I have it painted black, and then I've got the 6-arm stencil centered on there with my marking pencil. So if you have not yet done that, go ahead and pause the video and start painting your background. You can choose whatever color you want. I've got a second one going here that's got a blue background. We don't really use white very much in this design, so you could have a white background if you prefer. I always like you to shake up your background colors. I've got my tools set aside here. For part of this design, we're going to do some larger swipes, and I used, on my sample here, I did use the paintbrush, which was included in boxes a few months ago. If you do not have a paintbrush and you want one, these are called liner brushes, detail brushes, or rigger brushes. But what you're looking for is a paintbrush with a really long bristle. So that's what we're looking for. If you don't have a paintbrush, this can also easily be done as a swipe or swoosh with your dotting tool, and I will show you both ways when we get there. Some people prefer the paintbrush method, some people really just prefer to use the dotting tool method. Either way is absolutely fine. So as far as the paint colors go, I've got my Brilliant Purple. I'm going to squeeze some of that out here. I've got the Purple Iris, which is the darkest purple. I've got Wisteria, which is the light purple. And then we've got the metallic, which is Dazzling Metallic's Purple Pearl. So I will put the metallic up here. Now, I don't use a lot of the Purple Iris. If you're using a black background, the Purple Iris is a really similar color. It's really dark. So I mainly am going to use that for top dots. However, if you've got a white background, you might be able to replace one of the colors or incorporate that in the design, which is absolutely fine. Feel free to make it your own. All right, I'm going to set my stencil aside here, and we're going to get started. So for my center dot, I am going to use my 10mm, and I'm going to use the Wisteria, the light purple. When you make your dots, make sure you have plenty of paint on your tool. You're holding it at 90 degrees. And there we have our center dot. Then I'm going to get my stylus tool. I'm going to use the 1.5mm, which for me is my blue stylus, the larger end. And I'm going to use that Brilliant Purple. And I'm going to add one dot on each line. So we're going to end up with 6 of those right next to that center dot. The next step is 6mm dots, so I am going to pull out my 6mm tool and Wisteria paint, which is the light purple. And I'm going to put one 6mm dot next to each of those teeny tiny dots we just made. And so for me, that lands right about on next to that line. So it's going to cover up that first line. And we're going to go around and make 6 of those. And then next to that, I'm going to use the same color Wisteria in a 3mm dot. And put a 3mm dot, again, working on that line. Our inspiration this month was snowflakes, so that's why we're working with a 6-arm stencil. and mainly working the pattern on those lines. now, don't put your 3mm tool away quite yet. We're going to continue adding dots. So each ray here is going to have 3 of these 3mm dots. So we're going to go through and add 2 more. Keep these fairly close. You don't want a lot of space in between them. My first set here is way off, so I'm just gonna erase these. Oh goodness, excuse my dog if you can hear that. My dog in the background doing his dog things, because that's what time he thinks it is. So I've got my little fix on there. I just noticed for whatever reason that first line I did was so much bigger than the others. Okay, so we're going to get, on each of these rays, we're going to end up with 3 dots. And on each of those 3 dots, we are going to walk the dots inward. So I'm going to start with, we're going to walk it around the larger dot. So I'm going to get my 1.5mm tool. So for me, that's my blue tool on the large end. And I'm going to start walking the dots around this larger 6mm dot that we created. I'm going to use the Brilliant Purple, which is the brighter color. And then we're actually going to walk the dots for all 3 sets. So when I walk the dots, I'm going to dip my tool in, make sure it's up over the edge of that ball, and then just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And whatever is comfortable to fit in that space, you do on every one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So for this first set here, I can fit in 5. And so I'm going to walk the dots all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once you do all 6 of those, then we just move up a row, and I'm going to do the same thing. So when I get here, I'm going to count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I feel like 5 puts me in a good place because I can meet that right here with the next row. So I'm going to stick with 5 for this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we continue that all the way around. And once you finish that all the way around, you move up to that 3rd dot and do the same thing. For this one, I can fit 4 comfortably, so I'm going to stick with 4. All right, for this next step here, what we're gonna do, as you can see, is I've added some teardrops. So it's a 6mm tool here. I'm gonna use Wisteria paint. I wanted you to see where we were going with this. So in between those petals that we made, we're gonna add a dot. And then we are gonna pull that to a point with our fine tip. So you can use your pencil, you can use one of the fine tip styluses, but that is how we make the teardrop shape. I would not recommend doing more than 1 or 2 dots at a time because your paint will get a film on it. But we're just gonna work our way around with this light purple paint. Once you have a set of 6 of those, we're going to do the exact same thing, but we're going to face them in the other direction. So I've got my 6mm tool here. I'm going to make a dot right next to it. And then instead of pulling it inward, I'm just going to pull that shape outward. So we've got 1 teardrop facing in, 1 teardrop facing out. All right, this next part here is the part where you can choose to either use a brush or you can choose to use your dotting tool, and I'll show you both ways. So if you are using your brush, what we're doing on this step is we're creating these swipes around this teardrop element that we just made, okay? So in order to do the swipe, let me move this here. What we're gonna do, first I'm gonna start with the smaller ones. When we do the swipe, I will demonstrate on a piece of paper first. All right, so we're gonna have the dot that we're working around, okay? When you use your paint, you want to get plenty of paint on the paintbrush. And then what I like to do, you can either work reverse, which I think is easier. I think it's easier to do the fatter end first. So I'm gonna put my paintbrush down, push down a little bit, pull inward while curving. Push down, pull inward while curving. So this is just kind of a sample here. Oops. And it may take you a few practice swipes to get this right. So if you want to practice on a piece of paper, you may find it easier to do it in reverse where you push down and pull towards you. That is fine as well. Push down at the end, pull towards you. But that's how you kind of make those swoops with the paintbrush. So the first one I'm going to do is going to be small. I'm going to just curve around this first little piece at the bottom. And if you know me, you know for the most part I'm kind of a traditionalist when it comes to dot painting. So I tend to use my dotting tools. I am not big on paintbrushes, so I don't have a lot of practice with this. but usually by the time I'm done, I can make it look good. And sometimes I'll go around and kind of fatten up those ends. The second color that we're using is the metallic, and we're doing the same thing. I actually might add just a pinch of water. Metallics tend to be slightly thicker, and that one's been sitting a bit. All right, so the same process with the second swipe. I'm just going to go a little farther up. And then the third color, the third set of swipes, we're just doing with the Wisteria, with the lightest purple here. And then once I finish this, I'll show you how I do the same thing with the dotting tool. All right, so if you would rather use your dotting tool, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use the tool to do it. So I'm going to create my first set of dots. I'm going to use the 3mm tool. You could go down to 2.5mm if you wanted. But I'm going to start by creating a dot where I want my swipe to end. I'm going to redip, redot, and slowly pull where I want that swoop to go. So dip and dot again, and then pull that inward. Dip and dot again, that gets it nice and wet, and then we pull it around. Dip and dot. And you'll see I'm a lot better at these than I am with the paintbrush, but I just wanted everyone, you know, I know everybody's going to have a personal preference, and some of you may be better at the brush, and some of you may prefer the dots. I've been dotting a really long time, and so I tend to be more of a traditionalist when it comes to dot painting. I use a lot of dots and a lot of swipes and not really a lot of brush strokes, even though they're beautiful. It's just what I kind of lean towards. All right, so I've got all 6 of the smallest ones. Then I'm going to go up to the metallic paint. I'm going to do the same thing, dip and dot, and I'm just going to pull that swipe. And the longer the swipe goes, the slower I'm going to pull it. So dip and dot, and then swipe. If there's one you feel like you messed up on, like I feel like this one could be a little longer, I'm going to go back in there with my pencil and adjust it. I don't want to double swipe because it'll really mess up the shape. Alright, so I did 2 rows. Now I'm going to do my 3rd row with the light purple. This one has to go the farthest, so I'm going to go the slowest. But it's the same process, dip and dot, then dip and swipe. Again, that one didn't go quite as long, so I can fix that after the fact. And so that is how you make those 2 different ways. And then if you need to fix those tails, just go in with your mechanical pencil, pull them down a little. Most of the time I find that when you finish, it's not as noticeable because you're looking at the piece as a whole, but it's up to you. So do whichever way you prefer. I'm going to go back to my black here. All right, for the next step, we're going to use our 3mm dots, and I'm going to use the Brilliant Purple paint. All right, so this next step I have to edit in because somebody knocked on my front door, my dogs went crazy, I got my recording and my pausing all flubbed up, and so anyway, on the next step, we are working, if you're on the step-by-step guide, we're on step number 6. So we just did the swipes, whether you did those with the brush or the dotting tool, okay? And you're gonna see mine looks a little different here because I had to make another one. So it's missing elements, but for this part, this will be fine. So we've got these segments where we have these large swipes, okay? We are gonna walk the dots in between those swipes. So we've got this row of our 3 dots, and on our design it's filled in, right? We've walked the dots on the side, but in this same row with the 3 dots in between our swipes, we are going to dip our 3mm tool into Brilliant Purple. You are going to start at the edge of your design or the edge of your surface, and then you're going to walk the dots inward. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 feels good to me. So then I'm going to do that on each of the rays. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So just to compare it to my 2 completed samples, this is what we did right here. This one is got a shine on it. Okay, we did these rows right here. So we're walking the dots inward. On this sample, right here, walking the dots inward. So you're going to do that 6 times with 6 or 7 dots, however many you can fit in there comfortably. And then the next part of this design, we are going to use 3mm dots and we're going to pull them into stars. So in the row coming out of these 2 teardrops is where we're going to put this. And I'm using the Brilliant Purple. And what I do for that is I'm going to use my 3mm tool and I'm going to make a dot. And then I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to pull it to the right, to the left, to the top, and to the bottom. And that creates kind of that star shape. And I'm going to do that all the way around. And once you finish this part of the design, that is it for the base, and you can add top dots or you can add gems. So you have a little packet of gems that was included in the box. If you've got those, you can do that. Otherwise, you can top dot with some of the colors if you want to. Either way will make a beautiful piece. So you'll see here that I've got my 2 different designs, the one that I did with the brush and then the one that I did with the stylus tool. I've added some dots in different colors since my background was lighter, but it's the same pattern. And so you can choose to do whatever top dots you want to. On my sample here, I added a 6mm top dot in the middle with my Brilliant Purple. And then on top of that, I added a gem. In this row here, this set of 6 larger dots that turned into petals, I added a 3mm top dot. For this, I'm going to use the Purple Iris on this one. And then I added a gem. On this one here, my dots were Purple Iris, so I'm just going to add a lighter color. I'm going to use the metallic. And then the last place that I added top dots was on these little stars. And so here we've got the Brilliant Purple. I'm going to use the metallic. I'm going to use a smaller stylus tool, my 1.5mm, and just add the tiniest little dot in the center. And I can do the same thing over here. And top dots and gems are a personal preference. You can see I added some gems here, so feel free to get out your gems, and I usually just affix them. This is just Elmer's white glue, and what I'll do when I work with gems is I'll just put a little bit here on my tray, and I use my dotting tool. So just depending on what you want to add in your little gem pouch, you've got some sequins, which are kind of fun, and then you've got some iridescent purple gems. So if you want to add some of those, that would be a fun way to kind of zhuzh it up. I am going to go ahead and add some of those right in here. And sometimes, like in this case, maybe it's going to cover up part of my design. Like it's covering up the part of the pin there, or the, what's the word? Teardrop shape. And that's fine. Might change the look of it a little bit, but that is totally okay. As long as you do the same thing all the way around, it will look like you did it on purpose. So don't be afraid to have some play with the top dots and the gems. Alright, so that's just one idea of what you can do. Please have a play with it. I can't wait to see what you create. Share it in the share space or share it in one of the groups, and I'll see you next week for the next design, which is the Advanced Artistry. This one is really fun. Can't wait to see what you create, everyone. Have a great night.